So what is it that kids sometimes wish they had when you take them cruising? I asked my kids that very question based on a reader question that came my way. Hi, I'm Nika Waters and welcome to the Boat Galley podcast. Today I'm delving into what my kids thought they wish they had had before we went cruising on our 28-foot sailboat. Today's episode of the Boat Galley podcast is sponsored by Infinity, the most trusted name in woven vinyl flooring in the marine industry. Since 2008, Infinity has offered boat owners premier flooring options proven to withstand even the most demanding environments. Each of their products is equipped with UV-stable, fade resistance, and antimicrobial technology, giving them both durability and style that can't be matched. Thinking about kicking carpet to the curb? Make the switch to Infinity and see the difference true luxury makes. Visit infinitylwv.com and use the coupon code GALLEY for 10% off any area rug. Limit 1 per customer. I had a lovely note from a reader the other day. He was talking about the cruise that he and his wife are preparing to take with their two boys, ages 8 and 10. Their boat is a little bit larger than ours. It's a Cape Dory 33. And he's talking about taking his boys the same ages that our kids were when we went. He thinks that they're probably going to be fine on their boat, and I totally agree. But he wonders, as do many people, what kind of extra things might you really miss out on by going in a small boat? He really specifically wanted to know if our kids had things that they missed absolutely terribly and horribly when we went on our Bahamas cruise. And if there were things that the kids wished that they had brought with them if we had had space. And initially, I talked to Jeremy about this, and then it was great because the kids were home for one last kind of big dinner before we took them off to college, and it turned into our lovely dinner conversation. I said, okay, what is it that you wished you'd had when we went cruising? And I'll set the stage a little bit. Our boat is a 28-footer. It's pretty small, and when we told our kids that we were going to take them cruising, they were not particularly happy with us, but we handed them each a Rubbermaid container that was probably a little bit larger than a shoebox and said, here, you can fill this with the things that you want to make sure that you bring with you on the trip. This didn't include art supplies or books, or I guess we took a few videos with us, but mostly the things that we could think of that we knew that they would want, like art supplies and books, that didn't count in their shoebox. Those were just for things that they particularly felt they needed to have to go cruising. I think we let them each bring a stuffed animal or a doll that wasn't included in that mix too, but we didn't have a whole lot of extra space for them to bring lots and lots of extra things. So Julian, who is 20 and a sophomore in college, said in response to this, he's like, I don't think really that that's what the reader is asking. I think what the question really needs to be is, how do you make the transition to cruising life easier for kids? Because I think as parents, when we look at taking our kids sailing and cruising, we are trying to limit the worry and limit the concerns that they have and to make that transition easier. I thought that was a pretty insightful comment on his part. And he continued, he said, that was the biggest thing for me. I was so mad at you for taking us sailing. I was so mad. In fact, when we told the kids we were taking them cruising, Julian, who was 10 at the time, said, I'm not going. I'm going to go live with a friend down the street. That obviously didn't happen, but I thought that was really an interesting response on his part when he was 10. But Julian kept going, and he said, I think the best thing that we had on board were those teeny little MP3 players that you put all the music and stories on. When I needed to be alone, I could put on my headphones and listen to music and books that I had heard when I was at home, and it helped me realize that these two parts of my life weren't that far apart. When he said that, I was amazed. I had completely forgotten about those little MP3 players. We got them little Samsung ones because they were easier to navigate and to see what it was you had on them. We actually spent quite a bit of money on Audible stories so the kids could listen to them, but they each got their own little MP3 player, and we loaded them with music and books, and then we asked them what they would like. So we put individual music and books onto these MP3 players for the kids. And B said, yes, absolutely, those MP3 players, but I would have loved to have a friend come with me. But I was fine once we got going. And what B meant by that was that things were fine once we hooked up with another cruising kid boat. We hooked up with the Clarks on the sailing boat Osprey. But B kept going and said, I think having some space that you can call your own, even if it's only temporary, is really important. When I was mad, you sensing a theme here? Both my kids were pretty mad a few times about us taking them sailing. You guys let me go into your berth and make a fort. Julian wasn't allowed to go in there with me, except he used to take all the blankets and the sheets to make his own fort in his own bunk, and that was a pain. I still love that our kids, who we took cruising 10 years ago, they were 8 and 10 when we took them to the Bahamas for 9 months, on a sailboat whose entire interior space is probably smaller than the master bathroom of a modern home. They each have their own bedroom at the house in Charlottesville. And we handed them each a Rubbermaid container about the size of a large shoebox and told them to put what they wanted to take on board for the next 9 months, not including clothes, not including books, not including art supplies. But that's what they had to take with them. And as they look back on it, there's nothing that they think they didn't have. Don't worry so much about the amount of stuff that you take on your boat. Just be prepared to make incredible memories. Thanks so much for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. If you have comments and questions and things that you would like us to cover in a future podcast, please let us know. Reviews are appreciated, and particularly, if you like what you've heard, share it with a friend. Let's make this community even larger, because we're looking forward to seeing you out there.